Nina. Thanks so much for joining me, and welcome back to a brand new Studio Monday. Today I'm really excited to be sharing with you a fun set of cards that feature Penny Black products. Penny Black is a company that has been around for a very long time, and they have a lot of really amazing and detailed stamps, dies, and other products in their product collection line. I'm going to be using a couple of my favorites that are perfect for holiday and winter cards. I'm going to be using these two products that you see here. The one on the right is the No Two Are Alike Snowflake Cover Plate die. I love the intricacy of this. It's absolutely gorgeous. And then I'm also going to be using this really adorable Winter Wishes die that is really great and has a really nice fun set of fonts. So what I wanted to do for this cover plate is instead of die cutting this, I actually want to deboss the design into some watercolor paper because I want to do some watercoloring techniques with this particular die. So I'm taking the Sizzix silicone rubber mat and also the Sizzix texture plate, and I'm laying my watercolor paper and the cover plate on top of those two pieces. I'm also using the bottom tab of my Big Shot platform, and I'm going to add a cutting plate on top and run this through my Big Shot machine. Now the result is this gorgeous debossed pattern into this paper. I love the stunning results of this and how the intricate design of the snowflakes really shows up beautifully on this watercolor paper. In the end, I only ended up with 2 cards because I messed up that third panel. But I wanted to show you the beautiful results that you get by debossing that design into your watercolor paper. Now, for my watercoloring, I'm going to be doing some ink smooshing. So I'm taking a variety of distress ink colors, ones that will mix together really nicely. So I've got tumbled glass, chipped sapphire, wilted violet, and worn lipstick. And I'm going to spritz these with water to get these moving really well and allow them to be able to move a lot easier on my paper. Now, because we did the debossing on this paper, the raised areas are the only areas that are actually going to be picking up any of the watercoloring. And that's okay. What we end up with is what we have here. And you can see we've got a lot of really beautiful color already on these papers. I'm going to be taking some water that I've mixed up with some perfect pearls to create a little bit of a shimmer mist. And I'm going to spritz these papers very heavily to get that ink moving on these papers. And the result is that the ink is going to travel across the paper, soaking into the areas that are pressed down into the paper, and it's really going to fill in the cracks and cover up these watercolor papers really nicely. Here's a look at how they appear once they've dried. You can't see it very well here, but they do have a gorgeous shimmer to them. It's really, really pretty. So I'm taking some plain water now, and I'm just going to flick on droplets of water onto the backgrounds. I want some really big splatters of water on this, so I'm not using my distress sprayer directly onto the papers because I want to have just big splotches and not a lot of little splatters. So I'm just going to flick those on, and then I'm going to take a dry rag and just dab this up off of my paper. I just lift the water off of the paper, and you can see the great water splatter effect that we have. I'll go ahead and dry these to make sure that they're good and dry before we go ahead and move on to creating the rest of our cards. You want to make sure these are good and dry because we've done a lot of distress inking and also adding a lot of water from the water splatters. So this paper was quite damp by the time I got to this step. So I want to go ahead and make sure that these are good and dry before we go ahead and start working with these further. Here's a quick look at how they appear once they are completely dry. The results are just stunning. I love this effect. It's really, really cool. And it's also really easy to create lots of cards this way because the backgrounds are so simple to create. Now next I need to work on creating some glitter paper. Now you may already have glitter paper in your stash, and I actually do, but I wanted to show you that if you don't have glitter paper, you can create your own by using glitter embossing powders. And actually I really like making my own because it allows me to get really creative with the ways that I can create these glitter papers. I can also make custom sizes, so that way if I need a really big sheet, I can go ahead and create one, or I can make it as small as I'd like. So I'm going to be using this Nouveau Glitter Embossing Powder. Nouveau products are from Tonic Studios, and they have tons of gorgeous embellishment products. The Glitter Embossing Powder is part of their product line. They have a bunch of other different embossing powders, including other glitter colors and also solid colors. I'm going to go ahead and cover this entire piece of paper with that glitter embossing powder, and then I'll go ahead and heat set this. Now, if you don't have the Nouveau glitter embossing powder, there are also lots of other glitter embossing powders from other companies. So I'm going to take my glitter paper and go ahead and start running this through my Big Shot machine with the Winter Wishes die. I've got a metal adapter plate underneath my cutting plate because I find that cutting through glitter paper is a little easier with the metal adapter, but you could use a cardstock shim instead if you have any trouble cutting through the glitter paper. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the die from the paper. I'm going to use my tonic craft pick to go ahead and help pop these words out of the die, and you can see the gorgeous intricate design of this die. It's absolutely gorgeous, and that glitter paper just really steps it up a notch. I think this is a stunning result. You could also cut this from 2 different colors of cardstock and trim off the different words so you can have a word that's cut in 2 different colors. That would be fun too. Now, embossing powders are also really fun to add to the edges of papers. I've done this a lot lately because it's something fun to do. And I'm just using a embossing ink pad. This is actually Versamark ink. And I'm just brushing this along the edges of my paper. I'm not worried about it being even. I want it to be a little haphazard because I want this to look kind of like a frosted edge. And I'm going to take another Nouveau glitter embossing powder and add this to the edges of the paper. Now this is important to make sure that your paper is completely dry because we're doing the embossing powder on top of this, and we don't want the embossing powder to stick to areas that we don't want it to stick to. So make sure your paper is good and dry before you go ahead and move on to this step. I'll go ahead and heat set this embossing powder until it's completely dry. It's hard to see in the video, but this does leave a gorgeous frosted glittery edge to the cardstock. Really dresses up the edge of this really nicely. I did that to only one of the papers because I wanted both cards to look very similar but yet different at the same time. So I went ahead and did that to one of the papers, and then on the other paper I'll go ahead and leave it plain. For both snowflake backgrounds, I'm adding double-sided adhesive to the back side of the paper, and then I'm going to add some fun foam to the back side of this to go ahead and be able to pop it up off of my cards. If you don't have any fun foam, you could use foam tape. That works just as well. I'll go ahead and put double-sided adhesive on the back side of the foam tape and then apply the panel onto my card. Now again, I created both cards slightly differently. So for the first card, I applied the Winter Wishes die directly onto the snowflake pattern without anything else behind it. I think this looked really, really nice. I will show you how you can add a little bit more separation between the words in the snowflake pattern in a minute here, but I think if you wanted to go something a little bit more simple, this is definitely a great way to go ahead and add that Winter Wishes die onto your card. You can read this very easily, and I think the results are stunning. I did add some layers of cardstock to the back side of the Winter Wishes. I put about 4 different pieces of the Winter Wishes behind that just to give it some dimension off of the card. And then I also added some sequins from Pretty Pink Posh scattered about to really add a nice bit of shimmer and shine. This is actually a new sequin pack from Pretty Pink Posh. So here's a look at the card that we've created just now, all finished. I really think that this background is just absolutely stunning, and the frosted edges really creates that really cool wintry feel. So here's a look at a second variation to this card design. This one I added vellum to the back side to kind of give some separation to the word die, and then I'll go ahead and show you how easy that was to do. So I took a piece of vellum and I ripped the edges just to kind of give it an uneven edge. I thought that really added to the nice whimsical feel. And I put some ATG adhesive on the ends of the vellum piece, and I folded those over to go ahead and attach this down onto my card because I don't want the adhesive to show through on the vellum. I'm taking that same Winter Wishes die that I had used for the other card, and I'm going to add liquid glue to the back side of it and attach it down onto the vellum piece. On this piece as well, I also die cut more of the Winter Wishes dies from white cardstock, and I layered them onto the back side of my glitter piece just to kind of give it a little bit more dimension and lift off of the card. Now, because I'm attaching this to vellum, I want to make sure that this adheres down really well because vellum can sometimes be difficult to adhere to. So I'm taking a clear block and I'm just going ahead and letting this sit on top of the word die for a couple minutes to get the adhesive to bond onto the vellum. I'm going to take that same new sequin mix from Pretty Pink Posh, and I'm going to add some of the sequins scattered about this card as well. This sequin mix also comes with these really beautiful iridescent snowflakes. I added some of those onto this card as well, which I did not do for the first card. I adhered the sequins down with some glossy accents, and then after the sequins had time to dry, I just went ahead and popped this panel up off of a white card base. I love the result of the debossing and adding the distress ink on top to really create these gorgeous backgrounds. The results are simply beautiful, and I hope this has given you some inspiration to use your dies in a different way and not necessarily die cut from them, but emboss the design into your paper to create some really beautiful results. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments section below, and head on over to the Simon Says Stamp blog where you can get more information on these cards, including still pictures and products used. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you can connect with us on social media at Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, as well as our blog. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you again next week.